Today's AskReddit post. What things did you do as a kid that you now realize is extremely weird? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. When I was around 8 years old, I liked the way clean towels tasted. Something I really enjoyed was putting a towel over a straw and drinking Kool-Aid through it. My mother wasn't a fan of having white towels covered with red spots, so she put a stop to it pretty quick. Oh damn, that's actually really ducking weird. Nice. How did you get an award and not OCLOL? Welcome to Reddit. I used to stand naked in my bedroom window and try to stay as still as possible so the neighbors would think my parents had had a statue made of me. I would stand in different poses, too, so they'd think there were multiple dendronite statues which my parents would rotate around the house. The way I saw it, only important people had statues built of them. I wanted the neighbors to know they lived near a pretty important guy. This reads like something out of a Diary of a Wimpy Kid book. I immediately thought Calvin and Hobbes. Found a cat skull buried in the garden. Pulled the teeth out and put them under my pillow for what I thought would be easy money. God damn it, if the tooth fairy hadn't been surprised, I don't know what will surprise her. That fairy was scared as duck. Why does this kid have fangs? Dios mio, Dracula has returned. I must inform the council at once. When I was a kid, in the 80s, I had very strict teachers. Any form of backtalking or, God forbid, swearing, would get you a quick slap and a fast march to the head teacher's office to explain yourself. My teacher once sat me down for a talk, as happened fairly often, which was basically her just berating me. In the middle of this, she suddenly stopped and told me I needed to keep my eyes under control, because I had this terrible nervous habit of twitching my eyes when she was talking to me. In actual fact, I was tracing out imaginary swear words with my eyes. Basically, drawing out things like piss off and shut up, tracing the letters with my eyes as if they were right in front of her face. I didn't realize she could see my eye movements. I mean, I don't know why. As an adult, it's obvious that my eyes were darting all over the place and looking crazy, but child me thought that it was subtle enough that it was unnoticeable, and that I was being super sneaky. As soon as I realized she could see it, I stopped. But looking back, probably the funniest part to me now is how much it must have unnerved her, and she never did know the reason for it. To her, I must have just been the weird kid with the crazy eyes. Oh my goodness. I just tried this with my eyes. I'm sorry, but you must have looked insane. This is so funny. Everyone who read this sat here trying it and we all spelling duck off haha. AWWI spelled piss off haha. I used to have science experiments in the bathroom sink, meaning I'd go to the bathroom and lock the door. Once in, I'd make sure the sink drain was shut and then proceed to add every cleaner, chemical, shampoo etc under the sink to the sink in hopes of a reaction. Never got one, but it also never stopped me from trying. In hindsight, I probably could have killed myself if I had mixed the wrong stuff. I obviously didn't. I did this too, then got a bunch of headaches and never did it again. Mind you, it did take a couple of headaches for me to realize me mixing random poop gave me headaches. Edit. I don't think it was ammonia and bleach just because of the era and location. Sometime in the 90s, in Ukraine, in a fairly poor neighborhood. I know for sure toothpaste was involved. Maybe some iodine. Probably some sort of rubbing alcohol type stuff and shampoo. Also, while I stopped mixing bathroom items, I started mixing different foods. Then my friends and I would date each other to try the mixtures. I'm starting to wonder how I survived childhood. The scientific method at work. Thank you for your research. In grade 1, we would sit in a group on the floor in front of the teacher while she read us stories. I would sit at the back of the group against the wall and pull my pants halfway down my bum. I liked feeling the cool ground wall against my bare butt. Cold. When I was in elementary school, I would use one hand to cover my butt when I showered because I was afraid that a monster would warp through the bathroom wall and attack my butthole. When I was around 5, I would basically act like a train and follow the lines on the playground whilst also using my hands as those little rail things on the wheels, coupling rods. I would also look directly up when it was cold and use my mouth as a chimney. Honestly, it must have looked like I was insane. That's funny as hell. I would walk out the bathroom after taking a poop and spread my ass cheeks to whoever was in the living room and ask, "Is my butt clean?" One time it was the guy cleaning our carpet. That poor guy. I swear to God, officer, I did not ask that kid to do that. Please believe me. That little piece of poop with a piece of poop in his ass. It was not clean, officer. Blink at things because I thought it would help with my memory. I would imagine my eyes were like cameras and each blink was a shutter click. Wasn't there a book about that? Yes, the Cam Jansen series. She was like a kid detective with a photographic memory. She'd blink and say click if I recall correctly and she'd remember what she was looking at. I did this for a while because of that book. Sad to say it did not help. I genuinely tried it as well and it didn't help. I have this memory of her at like a fair or something and she used her technique to try and figure out how many candies were in a jar for a guessing game. I remember trying to do that as well and yeah, it definitely didn't help. I used to eat tissues as a kid. My mum found out one day and yelled at me to stop, as any sane parent would do, so I started eating them in secret, sneaking away with a tissue box to another room to eat a tissue or two. Until one day when I was about 5 years old I had to go to the hospital. I had no idea what was going on, all I knew was that I had trouble breathing through my nose. Before my operation I was in the hospital and I overheard one of the nurses say that they just needed to remove the excess tissue in my nose. Naturally I thought that the tissues I had eaten had started getting clogged up in my nose and I never ate a tissue again. I made the realization at 14 that it was muscle tissue in my nose and not the actual tissues I was eating. Edit. I'm glad to learn that I'm not alone with my strange habit. Also wanted to add that I saw some people mention getting tissue stuck in their ears and I had a close call in primary school when I rolled a piece of paper into a really small ball and put it into my ear. If you haven't realized, I wasn't the brightest child. Had to go to the medical bay to get it taken out with tweezers. That was a roller coaster. I made the realization at school in science class and just audibly said holy duck. One person asked me what was wrong. I never told them. I, a girl, used to sit back to front on the toilets to pee. My reasoning was that way it sounded like my dad peeing and then the monsters wouldn't try to grab me. Childhood anxiety is wild. Then you have a place for your comic books and your chocolate milk. Oh hi Butters. She had it right. That's what the toilet inventor Sir John Harrington intended it to be used like this. We are all using it the wrong way. When I was 4 or so, we lived in a flat in the USA that had this massive concrete structure behind it. I've no idea what it was, but at the bottom of it was at least a foot of dank water, trees, etc. I was convinced it was a swimming pool and begged my mum to let me swim in it. No, absolutely not, she said. It's full of snapping turtles, and they will snap off your fingers. I also wanted to eat all these berries that were on local bushes. No, absolutely not. Those are poisonous. They'll make you very sick and then dead. Clever me. I put the two ideas together and thus spent that summer throwing poison berries into the swamp structure in order to kill all the turtles. 4 years old. Stuck on murder mode for 3 months. It might have been a foundation from a torn down building that still had the basement. There's a thought. It's been a mystery to me for years. I used to keep the last piece of food I was eating in my mouth even for an hour. For example, if I was eating pizza, the last piece of the last slice would remain in my mouth while I went playing and running around. I stopped at the age of 9, when I almost died of asphyxiation. Holy poop, I thought I was the only one who did this. But like seriously, why did y'all do this, lol? Running any lollipop or sucker I ate under the faucet water after every lick because somehow it tasted better after being rinsed, lol. It does taste better. I never did it on purpose, but if I dropped my lollipop on the ground I would wash it and it tasted great. God, kids have stomachs of steel. How does eating something that has been cleaned give you a sturdier digestive system? If you drop a lollipop on the floor where people walk on and just rinse it off with water for a few seconds, is it really clean? Edit. I just want to add, I'm not above this. I used to do this all the time without thinking twice about it. Saying some gibberish all the time and thinking that it is probably meaningful in some languages. I felt smart as hell. I used to make random noise and word combinations and get into really weird contorted poses to be the only one to ever do this. That sounds familiar. I used to touch random things at unusual spots wherever I went, like the bottom of a railing or one single leaf on a clover field because, who knows, maybe I was the first to ever touch this. I still do this. If you throw a rock in a deep pond, there is a good chance you'll be the last person to ever touch that rock. I didn't know that people could see my eyes move and used to have my head in one direction and look with my eyes somewhere else. It wasn't before a girl saw me looking at her and said, "What are you looking at?" I figured that out. I was 7 or 8 years old and my mind was blown. My eyes move? A guy did this in school and was looking at a teacher in an inappropriate place and she called me out in front of the whole class. I hate child me. It's okay dude. Kids love looking at inappropriate places. I used to look at my teacher's slightly exposed pepperonis. Why the heck were they exposed? Go to air them out. Every time I ever turned a full circle for any reason, I would always turn a full circle the other way as well to make sure that it was balanced because I didn't want to turn one way more than the other. Obligatory edit. Thank you for the gold stranger. That was my first one. And yes, for those of you asking, I still am like this. I make music and whenever I pan something, make the sound left or right a bit. I always do it in the opposite direction that I really want to do it at first because I know my ears will tell me to move it the other way to even it out. On some of the beats that I post, I switch the panning halfway just for people like me, lol. Forgot I did this too. Went through a stage of balancing out things. Weird, I did as well. Sometimes still do. Like if in walking and accidentally drag one foot or something like that, I do it with the other to balance out. Same. Although I don't do it nearly as much now, but sometimes I still get the urge. 18 here. Still do it. Also occasionally when I'm chewing food. One bite left, other bite right. Oh, that was a big bite. Go to take a big one from the other side now. I used to run a Purified Dust cartel. My school had a sandbox area with eucalyptus trees, and I'd assign workers to throw sand over the trees so that the larger pieces would get filtered out by the bark. The remaining powder was labeled Purified Dust. Surprisingly, a huge number of kids were interested in buying our Purified Dust. Our currency was plastic BB gun pellets, and a pinch of dust was worth 5 pink pellets. Different colored pellets had different values, and freshly made dust cost more than old dust. There were even different companies of people creating Purified Dust at different trees. We devised plans to sabotage each other so that our own company could earn more profit. We were basically 6-year-old assholes running a fake cocaine business. Weird times. We had this thing going on with ice during the winter. There were a couple factions in different areas of the playground that built their own small snow forts. And ice was essentially the currency. The less dirty the chunk of ice, the more valuable it was. We would have stashes set up, holes dug into the walls of our snow fort and hidden via filling it and putting something in front of it, or sometimes between bricks and the like around the playground that we found out were loose. There would be occasional raids or bargaining to gain the other kids' ice. It's kind of funny that it was such a huge thing during the winter, knowing that when spring hit it all literally melts. I would come up with all sorts of supernatural and conspiracy theories to explain the world around me. I thought people were spying on me. If anyone laughed outside while I was on the toilet, I'd be convinced that they could see me and were laughing at me. I wouldn't characterize it as paranoia. It was more like extreme self-centeredness. I had trouble comprehending that there was a world out there that didn't involve me in any way. This went on until I was about 15-16, I think. I once took a dick pic on my dad's phone because I thought it would be funny. I was 7 and I didn't know what dick pics were or what pedophilia was or anything. My dad never brought it up. Update. I asked my dad about it. He doesn't remember it apparently. Thinking face. Let's get daddy in jail, said the cunning child to himself. I ate cupcake wrappers after finishing the cupcakes. Like I would just suck on it, the paper ones, and chew until there was zero flavor, then spit it out. Oh wow, I used to do this. I'd forgotten until I read your comment. I can taste the papery cake crumbs now, aha. Just making sure I got every last bit of sweet cupcake. Honestly, this thread is giving me flashbacks to memories I didn't even know I had. I used to waste a poop ton of water by turning on the shower and lay on the floor next to it with a towel over my body and fall asleep with a tiny bit of water splashing on my face. I used to imagine I was in a cave and it was raining outside for some reason. Our good times. My parents' shower had a seat in it and I would always hide under it to get out of the rain. Yes, I did this too, and would create complex scenarios of why I was stranded in the rain. Pooped my pants. Then picked the poop out of my underwear and hid it under the sofa so my parents wouldn't know. This makes me not want kids. Everything makes me not want kids. This whole damn thread is reinforcing my desire to not have kids. I for some reason had one mission as a kid. I would try my best to make people believe I was the smartest kid ever. I would talk gibberish to make people think I could talk another language. I would also make words up to give the impression that my vocabulary was so advanced. But it all backfired when I lost the spelling bee in the first round, then I failed first grade. I was a sad kid. I lost the spelling bee. Isn't it called spelling bee? Disappointed face. Oh no, it's happening again. I have a memory of when I was maybe 3 or 4. I tried to nurse a kitten Mayo. I'm a grown man and made the mistake of letting a kitten sleep on my bed chest. Oh look, it's moving around. Then it latched onto my nipple. Oh the pain. My wife thought it was hilarious. Kathy help. IT's latched onto my nipple. This is so close to what happened. Add my wife saying oh look it's mama now while giggling and I'm pleading for help. Most important of all, is your wife's name Kathy? Me and my mates used to poop on the road then wait until a car ran over it then celebrated. That's actually hilarious. Until you run over it. Piss on my closet floor. Lol, I did the same when I was 5. Mum was like, don't ever leave your closet open. The cat pissed inside while you were at kindergarten. Sheck knew. I like the taste of rock. My mother told me I used to pick up rocks and taste them when I was 3. I wonder if I ever had my own gourmet and if I had different types of meals like bricks and poop. Edit. I'll answer here mostly. 1. I am not a gore and I'm very much more like Kirby Ig 2. Why is my first post that blew up about me eating rocks? Edit 2. I like how I wasn't the only one. It's nice to know we got fellow cement mixes on here. Edit 3. I use this post to give a fact. If you look at anything, you'd immediately know the texture it would feel like if you licked it. Gold FCKEs woo. When I was around 6 or 7 I discovered if I tightened my ass and some other muscles I could make my pee-pee go up. I was quite proud of this accomplishment and showed it off as much as I could. I made my pee-pee bounce up and down in front of friends and family, especially after bath time when I had practiced. Edit. Thank you kind stranger for my first award ever. Edit 2. Another award. Whoa. Thanks. A friend's little brother used to run outside naked and do this backbend bridge thing and pee over his head. Until one time he peed on his own face. Never did it again. This whole post is a goldmine. More like a gold shower. I picked up ants and licked their butts. Tasted like citrus. I was about 10 or 11. Our ant decor club. I am not clicking on this. I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised by the ant trap decorated in live nude ants. When I was around 4-5 years old I remember I used to sneak downstairs very early in the morning and search for any cups with that 1/2 of cold sweet sugary coffee in, and drink them before anyone got up. Guess I may have been the youngest caffeine addict in Britain. Edit. Back in the day my parents drank camp coffee. I don't know if this is available outside of the UK, but it's essentially a thick coffee syrup which you use with hot water and milk. I loved it. So much better than instant. Double edit. The hazards of doing this were higher than you might think. Both my parents were heavy smokers, so there was a high probability of there being a dog end cigarette butt dropped in a cut somewhere. I wasn't that thirsty. I love this. My grandmother used to feed us 90% milk and sugar / 10% coffee, then tell us to go out and play. I would wash things made of rubber, like the kind of rubber that already feels slightly tacky, then pat it dry with a really fluffy towel so the rubber would get kind of fuzzy from the towel fluff. Then I would just touch it until the fuzz wore off. Turns out I was just autistic and no one had figured it out yet. I still have a thing about textures, but in a much less weird way. I was the opposite. Textures like that make me really uncomfortable and used to make me feel very overwhelmed, so I'd try to either wash it till it went away or try to keep it constantly wet so I couldn't feel it as much. When I was a wee lad I would wander about the house naked and pull back me foreskin to show visitors. I don't do that anymore though. Why not? Because he doesn't get visitors anymore. Yeah, I just don't understand why. Maybe the word spread that you don't flash a sheath anymore and they stopped. A few years ago, I was visiting my aunt and uncle, and they had some old film from the 80s of my extended family on a camping trip. There was a full playset there including a trampoline, and my mother was filming my cousins and I playing. I'm not sure why my aunt and uncle had the tape instead of my mother, but whatever. I was about 3 at the time, and my mother panned the camera away from my cousins playing on a swing set towards me on the trampoline. Except I was lying face down on the trampoline, full on thrusting my hips into it as hard as I could. Now, I don't specifically remember doing that, but I have a pretty good idea of how my little mind worked at the time. I'm certain that I was just trying to see if I could build up enough force to lift myself off the trampoline mat, or flip myself over. Still, not exactly the best thing to be watching with your aunt and uncle, who threatened to save it and show at my wedding. Joke's on them. I pocketed the tape when they weren't looking, and now we wait to find out if they had multiple copies. Several friends and myself had a fascination with writing in code. We had little pocket notebooks full of codes and deciphering instructions, also in code, and would write volumes of notes between us in code. Notebooks got confiscated by a teacher. We wouldn't tell her how to decode. She tried to get us in trouble. Parents thought it was hilarious. I'm almost 60 and I still have one of these notebooks around somewhere. That's awesome. When I was a kid I always wanted to make my own secret language but couldn't think of how to do it. Haha, it was so easy. Just random shapes to signify letters and numbers. Reverse the keys so it wouldn't be so easy for a 4th grader or teacher to decipher. We never wrote anything that could get us in trouble. It was more screwing with people and thinking we had some clandestine thing going on. Still makes me smile. The easiest one was to make a tic-tac-toe box and an X for the first 13 letters. Then do the same but with a slight change for the last 13 letters. Numbers were just shifted a couple of values. Or, just shift letters a few in either direction. I mixed ketchup and mustard together and called it my secret sauce. I used it as a dip for fritters. I was convinced I'd make millions off it. Isn't that just burger sauce? I think burger sauce is ketchup and mayo. When I was in 3rd grade I would dress as little Bo Peep while I took my poodle for walks and ask my neighbors if they have seen my other sheep. That's kinda adorable, not gonna lie. I would only sit on the toilet with a shower cap on my head. Thinking cap. I would go out to my local cemetery and talk to dead people. I would find someone whose anniversary it was, either birth or death, and just wish them well. I don't think it's weird now. I still do it, but I definitely thought it was weird at the time. I did this as a fully grown adult at the Ground Zero Memorial. They put flowers in everyone's name on their birthday, and once I learned that I had to walk around the entire thing. Look for the date and touch the name while wishing them well. It was quite emotional. Don't watch the Disney film Coco. It will destroy you. It is all about how once we die we only exist in the afterlife whilst the living remember us. Once they forget we are gone. It is based on Dia los Muertos in Mexican culture. You're keeping those people's spirits free in the afterlife with those well wishes. I love the way the air that comes out the back of vacuum smelled. I used to follow the vacuum cleaner around while my mum was cleaning with my face against a vent. I would turn it on when other people were not around and smell it. Also, I'm not sure if this is normal or not, but when I was about 8 I used to run around with nothing but a towel singing Duna 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 Flashman to the tune of Batman. Then show everyone my dick. Edit. Wow. Thanks for my very first award. You know what that smell is? Skin particles caught up and heated by the vacuum. Not kidding. Only learned it myself recently. Germany in World War II flashbacks. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.